The day was supposed to be magical. Balloons floated above the backyard, pink and gold ribbons swayed in the evening breeze, and my daughter clutched the $4,500 tablet she had dreamed about for months as if it were treasure. It wasn't just an expensive gadget. It was her reward for straight A's, for kindness, for the way she never complained when life felt heavy. I had saved for nearly a year to give her something special, something that told her she was seen, valued, and celebrated. My father arrived late, as usual. He walked in with the same commanding energy he had carried my entire life. Growing up, his word had been law. No questions, no disagreement. Even now, as an adult with my own child, I could still feel the invisible weight of his expectations pressing against my chest. At first, everything seemed fine. He smiled stiffly, handed my daughter a card, and sat at the edge of the table while everyone sang. Instead, I saw something darker flicker across his face disapproval. He asked how much it cost. In front of everyone, he began lecturing me about wasting money, about spoiling children, about how in his day kids earned respect, not luxury. The party grew quiet. Guests pretended not to listen, but no one missed a word. I tried to keep my voice calm. I told him it was my money, my choice, and my daughter. I explained that it wasn't about price, it was about celebrating her hard work, but he wouldn't stop. His voice grew louder, sharper, cutting through the music and laughter like broken glass. Then it happened. He stood up abruptly, grabbed the tablet from her small hands, and before anyone could react, he slammed it onto the concrete patio. The sound of shattering glass echoed like a gunshot. My daughter froze. The screen splintered into a spiderweb of cracks. Silence swallowed the party. She didn't scream. She didn't cry at first. She just stared at the broken pieces on the ground, confusion replacing joy. For years, I had allowed my father's control to seep into my life. I had tolerated the criticism, the dominance, the humiliation. But watching my daughter's happiness destroyed to satisfy his ego was the line I walked over slowly. I knelt beside her, gathered the shattered device, and hugged her. Then I stood up and faced him, not as a child, but as a parent. I didn't yell. I didn't insult him. Instead, I did something far more powerful. In front of every guest, I calmly told him that what he had done wasn't discipline, it was cruelty. I explained that respect isn't forced through fear or destruction. It's earned through love and example. He tried to interrupt, but I continued. I told him that if he couldn't celebrate his granddaughter's happiness, he didn't deserve to be part of it. I asked him to leave. The public nature of it was intentional. For years, he had corrected, criticized, and embarrassed me in front of others to maintain power. This time, I set the boundary in the same open space. Not out of revenge, but out of necessity. He left furious, muttering about disrespect. Some relatives looked shocked. Others quietly nodded in understanding. The party slowly resumed, though the energy had changed. Later that evening, I sat beside my daughter and explained something important. I told her that sometimes adults make mistakes, even grandparents. I told her that no one, no matter who they are, has the right to break her things or crush her joy. I promised her that I would always stand up for her. The next morning, I ordered a replacement tablet. But more importantly, I made a decision about my father. Until he could acknowledge what he had done and apologize sincerely, he would not have access to my child. The story spread through the family quickly. Some called it dramatic. Others said I overreacted. But a few privately admitted they wished they had stood up to him years ago. What he destroyed that day wasn't just a device. He exposed the unhealthy pattern that had shaped our family for decades. And by confronting him publicly, I broke that pattern publicly. Revenge, in my case, wasn't about humiliation or shouting. It was about reclaiming authority over my own household. It was about showing my daughter that love protects, even when it's uncomfortable. Sometimes the most powerful revenge isn't destruction, it's boundaries. And for the first time in my life, I felt like the cycle had finally ended. In the days that followed, the silence from my father was louder than any argument we had ever had. No calls, no messages. That was his pattern withdrawal as punishment. Growing up, silence had always meant guilt. If he stopped speaking to you, it meant you had crossed a line. But this time felt different. I wasn't waiting for his approval. I wasn't replaying the moment in my head, wondering if I had been too harsh. I kept returning to the image of my daughter's face when the tablet shattered. That fragile pause between confusion and heartbreak reminded me exactly why I had done what I did. A week later, family members began reaching out. My aunt called first. She spoke carefully, as if stepping through broken glass. She said my father was telling everyone that I had humiliated him, that I had turned my child against him, that I had disrespected the man who raised me. I listened quietly, then I asked her a simple question. Did he mention smashing her gift? There was a long pause. No, she admitted softly. That told me everything I needed to know. My father had always controlled narratives. He shaped stories in ways that protected his image. But now I realized something powerful. I didn't owe anyone a version of events that protected his pride. So I did something bold. I posted a calm, measured message in the family group chat. Just facts. I explained that my boundary wasn't about money. It was about respect and safety. I ended the message by saying that anyone who believed breaking a child as property to make a point was acceptable was free to distance themselves from us. The responses were mixed. A few cousins privately supported me. Others remained silent. But my father didn't reply at all. 2 weeks later, he showed up at my house unannounced. I told him we could talk on the porch. He started with defensiveness. He said he was trying to teach a lesson. He said children these days were spoiled. He said I had embarrassed him in front of everyone. I let him speak without interruption. Then I asked him, what lesson did she learn when you broke her birthday gift? He hesitated. Or did she learn that love comes with destruction? That question hit harder than any insult could have. For the first time, he didn't have a quick answer. I told him I wasn't looking for revenge. I was interested in ensuring my daughter never felt small in her own home. I told him that if he wanted to be part of her life, it required one thing: accountability. He looked away. His pride wrestled visibly with his conscience. Finally, in a voice far quieter than I had ever heard from him, he said, I shouldn't have done that. I didn't immediately forgive him. Instead, I told him rebuilding trust would take time. He would need to apologize to my daughter directly. He would need to show through actions that he understood the boundary. The following Sunday, he came over again. He knelt in front of my daughter and told her he was wrong. He said grown-ups sometimes make mistakes too. His voice trembled slightly as he spoke. She listened carefully, then nodded in that simple, forgiving way children often do. She didn't mention the broken tablet. She just said, "It's okay, Grandpa." Not because everything was magically fixed, but because accountability had finally entered our family dynamic. Over the next few months, things slowly changed. My father was quieter around me, more cautious. He no longer criticized my parenting choices openly. When he disagreed, he asked questions instead of issuing commands. Some relatives later admitted that my confrontation had shifted something for them too. One cousin said she felt braver setting boundaries with him. Another said she realized she didn't have to tolerate disrespect just because it came from an elder. But instead of pretending they weren't there, we were finally acknowledging them. I also learned something about revenge. True revenge isn't about humiliation. It's not about destroying someone the way they tried to destroy you. It's about refusing to accept behavior that harms the people you love. It's about breaking cycles, even if it makes you uncomfortable. My daughter still uses her replacement tablet every day. But more importantly, she remembers something else from that birthday. Her parents stood up for her. As for my father, our relationship is different now. It's not built on fear or silent obedience anymore. It's built on clear boundaries and earned respect. Not perfect, not effortless, but healthier. Sometimes the most powerful public revenge isn't loud or dramatic. Sometimes it's simply saying in front of everyone, "This ends with me," and meaning it,